The reason I'm teaching the kids to make this blended green soup is because it is one of my most powerful strategies in the parenting toolbox that I teach to get picky eaters to eat vegetables better. Okay? Blended soups are amazing because the vegetables are all blended up. You can't pick anything out, number one. Number two, what I do with these is I serve them at the beginning of the meal as an appetizer course. That's when kids are most hungry and most open to new flavors. And we keep all the rest of the meal back in the kitchen, okay? And just let them sit for 10 minutes. If you've got some eaters that you really strongly desire to eat more vegetables, let them make friends with that soup for at least 10 minutes before anything else comes out, okay? Not forcing them to eat it, not waiting until the bowl is cleared before anything else comes out, just hanging out with the blended soup for a while. 3 is that we make these fun. You'll see at the end of the video how we dress up the soups with little faces. Nothing like a little fun and novelty to get kids interested in eating the food, or at least tasting it. And 4, the most fun and novel is that we serve these soups with a straw. There's something magical about a straw and kids. I don't know what it is, but it really does help the soup go down. So I'm very excited to teach this simple soup to you and your kids. I want the kids involved, and I want you involved too, because we are going to have some sharp knives going on here. If your kids have never been trained with sharp knives, I need the parents to have a role in this. And what I recommend, parents, is that you do a hand over hand technique. So I'll show this in the video too, but I really want to emphasize that I want your hand over your child's or your child's over yours, depending on their age, size, and maturity, so that they're getting the feel of the motions you make when you cut, but they're not really driving the cutting process themselves, because if they haven't been trained, that's a scary situation. Now, of course, in Kids Cook Real Food, we train knife skills diligently. We train knife safety and knife technique. In fact, fully a fourth of our videos in our course are knife skills starting at age 2 with the butter knives. So I look forward to working with you more, but today let's jump in and make this blended green soup, okay? Get the recipe ready and I'll see you in my kitchen. I am here with 3 of my kids to show you how we make a special soup that's really kid-friendly because we dress it up at the end. We'll talk about different vegetables that you can put in here, and the kids are going to do all the work, even the big knife. Now, if you haven't been trained in knife skills, I don't want you to use a big knife, but I want you to do things with your parents. Cool? Okay, so Kids Cook Real Food. We're all about cooking, well, real food. So blended green soup. Let's take a look at our ingredients first. If I touch something, will you guys say it so they know what it is? And actually, I'm going to do the first one. I'm going to cheat a little bit. The first thing we need is a cooking fat, and that's either going to be butter or olive oil or really any other fat you have. That's really flexible. Then
onion.
And this is leeks. Good.
Potatoes. Zucchini. Salt. Dill.
And
Chicken
broth. Broth or stock, both words are right. We make homemade. You can use it from the store too, but if you use store broth, don't add salt because it's probably already salted. Cool? Okay, so the very first step is to read all the steps. Okay, so right now I want you to pause the video, read through your whole recipe, find all the ingredients and get them out, and then come back, okay? Unpause. We're back. Our first step is to cut the onion. So Leah, grab the onion and the knife, and then John's gonna turn on the stove and start melting our butter. Don't melt the butter too soon, especially if you're just new to knife skills. We want you to have time to cut the onion well. So John, you just hang out there for a minute, okay? You watch your fingers, make sure they're clawed or something. Okay. All right, so as Leah cuts this onion, the most important thing is to keep your fingers out of the way. She's either going to use like a bear claw format. Can you do up and over soldier on that one? Yep. Or see on up and over soldier, the fingers are standing straight like a soldier and they can't get hurt. I like to cut the onion ends off first, like Leah did here, and then cut it in half, and that makes it easier, and I'll just help you too. That makes it easier to get the outer skin off because we don't want to eat that brown part. And I just sacrifice one of my layers rather than peel at the skin all day long. And that's okay, because you know what I do is I use these onion pieces to make the homemade chicken stock. It actually adds a lot of delicious flavor, so it's okay to me to take out that one outer layer. Let's remove some of those brown things. Okay, so now Leah's going to cry, and sorry, it's getting us, isn't it? Now Leah's going to cut this onion into rings, probably up and over shoulder or bear claw. Yep, you can bear claw it. Our goal is to dice the onion. We want the pieces pretty small, although ultimately we're gonna blend this soup up, so it's kind of okay. You shot in the eye, oh dear. It's kind of okay if the pieces are a little bit bigger. All right, so you can see the shape that Leah's left with. I'm gonna do a little zoom in here. It's like a rainbow. So when we go on to the next step of dicing, Leah's going to lay that rainbow down flat, and then she'll take her knife and go around the rainbow. So I like to think of the knife as sort of moving around the hands of a clock, or cutting all the way around that rainbow, and that gives you nice dices. If you cut straight on the onion, right, because it's already curved, if you were to just cut straight up and down, you'd get very different sized slices. So keep those fingers up and down, or completely out of the way. We call it top chop. When we put our hand right on top of the knife, that gives you a little control and keeps your fingers super safe away from the blade. We like to set the stove to about medium. Go ahead and grab the butter, Jen. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. So on a stick of butter, you can use the lines. Here, kind of hold that out here. There we go. You can use the lines to show 2 tablespoons. When you're cooking like this, it doesn't really matter if you're perfect. Usually, often you have to measure really, really well, but not for something like this. And now look at my pot. It's kind of messy. That's because we had popcorn in a movie yesterday, and one of the cheats, one of the ways I save time as a busy mom of a busy family, is if I just melted butter in a pan, I'm going to use that pan the next day. And I thought about cleaning it for you, but then I thought, no, this is real life, real family. We're going to just show it how it is. How's that butter looking, Leah?
It's all melted.
It's all melted. Time to add our onion. Now, leeks are really interesting vegetables, and I gotta say, I just don't buy them that often. So when I do, I cut them up, or I have a kid cut them up and put them in the freezer. So we're cheating a little bit today because I'm not showing you the whole leek. If you do have a whole leek, just use the white lower part, not all the green. I think we'll just pour like 3/4 of that in, Leah. And again, there's lots of eyeing up when it comes to cooking. If you don't have a leek, let's see, Leah, show them our garlic, because leeks and garlic are in the same family. You could use a little bit of garlic, maybe 2 cloves if you just don't have a leek. Yep, one beautiful bulb. You could also use a little bit more onion, because a leek is like a milder onion. But if you don't have it, don't worry. You can totally still make this recipe. What we're looking for is a word called translucent. The onions, as they cook, will get less white and more like a translucent is like those shower doors that you can sort of see through, but not really. And that's what we want to look for. It'll take about 5 minutes, and we're going to add a few more ingredients while we go. So let's go back to John cutting the potato. All right, next is a potato. The recipe calls for a medium potato. Well, we only had red potatoes today, so you know, you just kind of make it up. Before you use potatoes and zucchini, you're gonna wash them. Here's how we wash them. We make sure that we're just scrubbing away and getting all the dirt off. Let's start with the bigger one, John. John's gonna use an up and over soldier hold. Keep his fingers standing straight up. Notice the tip of the knife is gonna be pointing down. A little more down there, John. All right, now John has flat pieces, and anytime you can get something flat, that's going to be safer with your knife. So he's laying all those down flat. He's going to go for about 3 like French fry, like sticks, right? We're getting sticks. He's lining his sticks up. Now hold on, now I want you to turn them. Yeah. And then make sure your fingers stay straight up like a soldier. You're not really up and over anymore. Yep. So his fingers are staying hey out of the way. And then he does a little up and over soldier, maybe top chop on the last one, sweetie. Okay, so we have a phrase at Kids Cook Real Food. We say, food moves, knife down, right? So if John's going to get these dices, the potato dices, out of his way, he's going to always set that knife down. On the other half of that phrase is knife moves, eyes down. So if you're cutting, if your knife is moving, your eyes are always down. We're gonna show that even little kids, even kids as young as 2 or 3 can get in and help. Now, your important job is that this left hand, Gabe is right-handed, this left hand is gonna stay all the way over here, fingers straight up like a soldier, up and over, or hey, out of the way. And he's gonna try the crinkle cutter, just push straight down and cut off the end. And then spin, hold on. Spin your zucchini like you're playing Chutes and Ladders. We're doing a little guide here just because Gabe's never done a zucchini. He's used knives a lot. Now, food moves knife down. So set your knife down and move your trash up and out of the way. Perfect. Beautiful. And John's already halfway through a second one. Now we need kind of small pieces here. So go for slices. Pretend you're slicing a cucumber. The other tool that I like little kids to use, really you can just use a butter knife, but we have this cheese knife. And it's just a great sort of medium, sharp but not sharp, if that makes any sense. The recipe calls for either asparagus or zucchini, about 3/4 pound. And actually I weighed these, they're only about a 1/2 pound. So 2 or 3 small zucchinis or 1 or 2 medium or large zucchinis is great. If you don't have zucchinis, why not try broccoli or cauliflower? It wouldn't be as green, wouldn't be green at all, it'd be white soup. But you really can use any vegetable. You can take the potatoes over there because they can be part of the saute too. Perfect, Gabe. Now, Gabe's down to kind of this last piece and he's gonna lay it flat and do, yep, like a top chop thing, just push. Perfect. Okay. Now often, if I were an adult preparing this, I would actually dice these, but if we leave them in larger chunks, it just means we probably have to cook it about 5 more minutes. So Gabe's gonna finish cutting that. What do we got? Our potatoes in the pot. Next on the list is the salt. So, what does it say? 3/4 teaspoon, I think. Oh, 1/4 to 1/2. Well, we have homemade chicken stock, and I know that needs lots of salt. So we'll do a 1/2. When I'm working with little kids, I have them put these measuring spoons in order, and what do we call them, Gabe? Can you do, yeah, knife moves eyes down, so he's got to stop cutting. What do we call these?
Daddy, Mommy, Kid, Baby.
Yeah, dad, mom, kid, baby. And even if that's not your family structure, kids understand that family structure from books. And so if I said to Gabe, I need a kid teaspoon of salt,
I would get this one.
boom, he would grab that 1/2 teaspoon and measure salt. Now, John, you're not doing anything and Gabe is, so why don't you measure the salt? We always call it no holes, no hills at Kids Cook Real Food. Now, John, after we use that salt, what do we always do?
And move it over to the other side.
Well, we'll go that way. We'll go all the way to the other side of our workspace. Now, everything else that we've used has just gone into the pot. But whenever we're using like the seasonings and stuff, we move them right to left, the way you're reading. So the way you're looking at us is right to left for you. That way, if you get distracted or you're coming back and you go, oh, did I add the salt? Did I not add the salt? You'll know because the salt's no longer here. Hey, Leah, what you measuring?
Chicken broth.
3 cups. Now, watch as Leah gets level with liquids. In order to measure liquids accurately, you gotta look at it straight on. So that's how many cups?
2.
One more. See how she gets level with liquids and watches that 1 cup mark. Now, once you pour in the chicken stock, it's nice and cold. You're not gonna burn anything. We want it to boil. So what are we gonna turn the heat to now?
High.
Yep, all the way to high, whatever you got. So let's take a look at what's in there. Onions are in there, the leek, or whatever you might have replaced the leek with, some potatoes. Some of the zucchini is getting in. Gabe is still working. All right, little man, you get to do the last measuring job. We need dill. I just want to show you how different ways to measure spices. So if you're working with kids and they have to pour the herb or spice, we want them to pour it over a little spill jar, a little spill bowl, I'm sorry, and then that dill can go back into my jar, anything he does spill. Now you can actually put your spoon right in and do our shake-a. All right, I will go add that to the pot, and then on your pot, guys, once all the ingredients are in there, you're gonna put the lid on and leave it on high, and I'll show you what a rolling boil looks like. All right, here comes that dill. Parents, if you are cooking and you can just have your little ones measure the spices, they're still involved. They can just measure herbs or spices into a bowl like that, and you don't have to worry about the hot stove. All right, kids ran off to play, so that is an adult hand. But I want to show you, first of all, see the steam coming out? It's super hot. Whoa! Let's turn that down to low. When we open a lid, we Pac-Man the lid. All the steam goes out away from my wrist. Very important. Can you even see through the steam? Ah! Well, I could hear. Could you hear the boil? Turn it back up to high. There we go. That is a good boil, friends. And soup can't boil over, can't make a mess, so it's a great thing for kids to help cook with. Now we're going to turn all the way to low and set our timer with the lid on. Well, our timer beeped after 10 minutes, so now I get to use this tool. This is the last step of blended green soup. First, you'll want to use a long fork to check to make sure the vegetables are done. Zucchini is very soft, so it's the potatoes that I'm looking for to make sure they're nice and soft and totally mushy. If they're not, add 5 more minutes. Keep your soup on low with the cover on. Mine are done, so now I'm going to blend it up. We have what's called a stick blender, a hand blender, or an immersion blender, and so I'm going to use that and show you how. This is this whole blending step, parents, is a little bit dangerous for kids, whether you use a stick blender or whether you pour steaming hot soup into a regular blender and blend it up. This is one of those very few steps that I would recommend for adults to take care of. Now remember, in our Kids Cook Real Food e-course, we train kids how to be safe at the stove, how to use sharp knives safely. So I'm a huge advocate of kids cooking independently after they've been trained. So this video is something that I want you to do together as a family. And if you would join us in the Kids Cook Real Food e-course, we can train your kids how to use these kitchen tools and techniques really safely, and then they can do exactly this recipe and so many more completely independently. The camera's steaming up again, but I just want to show you, and again, this may be a parent job. We want to keep the holes on that immersion blender all the way, immersed in the soup. So when I lift it up to smash new vegetables, I stop hitting the button. All right, really work hard to get it all blended, all those little chunks out. And I'm going to do a little check. It's beautiful. It looks a little creamy because of those potatoes. And I told you that we would dress this up. You want to see how we dress it up? Well, that is blended green soup. So you see how kids can really help, really get involved, do the skills in the right way, in a safe way, and how you can make all sorts of substitutions. And when you're making something like soup, you don't have to measure perfectly.
And you can have little kids help.
And you can have little kids help. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy.